Welcome to today's Explainer. We're stepping way back in time to unpack a story that honestly sounds like it was ripped straight out of a fantasy novel. But it actually stands as one of the most eerie, fast-paced historical mysteries on record. We're looking at a bizarre medieval event that has literally baffled scholars, scientists, and historians for centuries. We're going to look at the evidence, break down the timeline, and try to figure out exactly what happened here.
I want you to picture this. You're working in a quiet medieval field. Out of nowhere, from the dense forest, two children stumble into the clearing. But they aren't normal children. Their skin is a bright, vibrant green, and they're speaking this rapid, melodic, entirely alien language.
Section 1. The Bizarre Discovery. To really understand how this happened, we've got to set the scene. It was the 12th century, right in the middle of the turbulent reign of King Stephen. The location? A quiet rural village called Woolpit in Suffolk, England. It started off as a completely ordinary day. Harvest workers were out in the fields gathering crops near these deep, dark pits dug into the earth, traps specifically designed to catch wolves. And standing right near these imposing wolf pits were a young brother and sister. They were utterly lost, completely disoriented, and the villagers were faced with something, well, completely alien. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is just how strange they looked. First and foremost, the children's skin wasn't just slightly tinted. I mean, it was a vibrant, bright shade of green. They weren't wearing the standard wool or linen of 12th century England either, but were draped in strange, unfamiliar materials that no one had ever seen before. And finally, when the stunned villagers actually tried to speak to them, the children responded in this unrecognizable melodic language. They even brought in the most educated scholars in the region to listen, but absolutely no one could identify a single syllable of this strange speech.
Section 2. Only raw green beans. So the villagers were understandably baffled, right? They took the lost children to the home of a wealthy local landowner named Sir Richard de Caen, and it was immediately obvious that the brother and sister were starving, weak, and just desperate for nourishment. Inside Sir Richard's home, the children were offered perfectly normal medieval food, hearty bread and roasted meat. But the moment it was presented, they broke down in tears, violently rejecting it. They absolutely refused to eat a single bite of what we'd consider normal sustenance. Yet, when the villagers happened to bring in some freshly harvested green beans, with their thick stalks still attached, the reaction was instantaneous. The children frantically grabbed the stalks, ripped them open, and ravenously consumed the green beans completely raw.
For months, these kids survived entirely on that bizarre diet of raw green beans. But slowly, over time, you can see a progression began. By month 4, they started adapting to eating normal bread. And then, as they integrated this regular food into their diet, something absolutely incredible happened. They completely lost their vibrant green complexion. Their skin slowly shifted back to a normal human hue. The magic, it seemed, was kind of fading right into reality. But unfortunately, with this adaptation came a truly devastating turn. The young boy, who had always been the weaker of the two, became severely sick and tragically passed away. This left only the young girl as the sole surviving witness. Fortunately, she survived her illness, fully adapted to her new life, and eventually learned to speak English fluently. And once she could communicate, well, she finally held the key to unlocking this entire mystery.
Section 3. The sunless underground world.
Okay, what she told the villagers next is, without a doubt, the most spine-chilling part of this entire explainer. She sat down with her caretakers and finally gave an account of her true home, a place that defied all medieval logic and understanding. Just listen to this description. She claimed, "We lived in St. Martin's Land, a subterranean world where the sun never shone, a permanent twilight where everything was entirely green." I mean, just imagine that for a second. An entire underground reality, no sun, no day or night, just an endless, permanent, heavy twilight where every single object, the landscape, the atmosphere itself was cast in a deep, vibrant green. So how in the world did they get from a subterranean twilight to a wolf pit in Suffolk? Well, she laid out this surreal sequence of events. One day, she and her brother were simply out herding their father's cattle in this green world when they heard a massive, echoing sound of bells. Completely mesmerized by the ringing, they followed the sound deep into a mysterious cave. They kept walking and walking in the dark until suddenly they emerged from the cavern into the blinding, glaring, bright sunlight of 12th century England. Now, for centuries, this spectacular story fueled endless rumors. People seriously asked, were they aliens dropped onto Earth?
Were they fairies from some magical subterranean realm? Or, as we have to ask ourselves today, was there something far more tragic and grounded in reality at play here?
Section 4. Unlocking the Green Mystery. To find out what really happened, we need to strip away the folklore and explore what modern researchers actually believe took place on that fateful day. Let's dive into this. Historians are generally split into two major camps. On one side, some argue this is simply a completely fabricated folklore tale. A myth invented to entertain villagers around a fire, with no actual basis in reality. But on the other side, modern researchers point to a deeply grim, real-world explanation. They suggest these weren't fairies at all. Instead, they were likely Flemish orphans who were actively fleeing a brutal war. Think about it. If they had been hiding in dense, dark forests, perhaps even living in caves to escape passing armies, that would totally explain their disorientation and their strange, unfamiliar Flemish clothing and language, which those rural English villagers simply wouldn't have recognized.
Okay, but what about the green skin, right? Well, modern medicine actually provides a devastatingly rational explanation for this. Chlorosis. This is a very real, very severe type of anemia caused by extreme malnutrition. When a human body is starving for prolonged periods, this condition can literally tint human skin a distinct greenish hue. It perfectly explains why they were starving, why they only recognized crops they could scavenge in the wild, like raw green beans, and crucially, why their skin slowly turned back to a normal color once they were given a steady diet of bread and meat. The quote-unquote magic of St. Martin's Land was, in reality, the horrific symptom of starvation.
Which really leaves us with this final thought. We've seen the eerie fairy tale, and we've analyzed the cold medical science. But does the tragic reality of starving, war-torn orphans erase the enduring magic of the Woolpit mystery? Or does it make it even more compelling? It's this chilling intersection where harsh medieval reality burst in an unforgettable piece of folklore. It's a true testament to how human beings process trauma, mystery, and survival. Thank you so much for joining me to explore this fascinating piece of history. Keep questioning what you read, keep analyzing the facts, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.